Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March meeting of the Athens in Motion Commission. Athens in Motion Commission exists to implement the bike and pedestrian master plan and provide recommendations, programming, and the completion of a safe streets network, something like that. So I will do roll call. I'm here. Art.
Here.
Teresa. Might be running late. Randy.
Here.
Alan. Right. Ed.
Here.
Julie. Here. Craig.
Here.
Lane.
Here.
Okay. Have a quorum. Welcome. Alan's here. We just got started. Any public comments, Daniel?
No.
Next are, oh goodness, that's fine, that's exactly what I needed. Our minutes from our February meeting from our secretary, Blaine, thank you. Screen. Welcomed Katie as our new Vision Zero coordinator, talked about the Mayports 50 survey. Heard a presentation from Randy about sidewalk gaps, budget. We'll also talk about the budget this time. Heard the local roadway safety plan presentation. And yeah, any additions, edits, corrections to our minutes? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Second that.
All right, first and second, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, and actually, I do need to approve the agenda. So what we're talking about today, we have Derek Doster with us from the SPLOST office, who will give a presentation here shortly. We'll talk about the budget some more, and then we'll hear staff updates. So, and then committee facts. Any additions, edits to our agenda? All right, with that, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Right, any opposed, same sign, and our agenda carries. So with us today, Derek Doster from the SPLOST office, and I'm going to provide a little context and then turn it over to you. And Derek, we have set aside like 45 minutes. You can use as much of the time as you want. I think some of these folks are newer to the commission and they might have more questions. And Derek is here to solicit comments. So we're not giving official approval or anything like that. He's just taking comments today. But Lexington Road, major corridor, along with Atlanta Highway, there have been corridor studies. As part of a submission to T-SPLOST 2023, Athens in Motion submitted proposal for some kind of bike ped facilities along Atlanta Highway and Lexington. And so the funds from T-SPLOST are being used, from T-SPLOST 2023 are being used for a project on the north side. There's a second project on the south side, which is being funded by T-SPLOST 2017. But Derek is here today to talk about the north side. So
And I can talk about a little bit of history too.
okay, great.
No problem.
Okay, so that's what's going on there, and that is kind of where we stand today. Lexington Road is tier 1 for bike ped facilities on the Athens in Motion plan, along with Atlanta Highway. So with that, I will kick it over to Derek.
Well, thank y'all for having us today. Again, we want to advise or bring forth a presentation on our T-SPLOST 2023. So we call it project number 2. I'll put a few slides together, and then Daniel hopefully will help run through that. I did not bring paper copies, so I apologize if some of it's hard to read, but we can get any of this information to you, at a later date. That's not a problem. I'm gonna stand if you don't mind, talk better. Again, this is our T-Splosh 2023 project number 2, and these are our project concept priorities, working with our user group, just like y'all are a AIM commission that's put forth together by mayor and commission. We, from a staff standpoint, recognize and utilize user groups. A lot of times we'll have members from other groups, but we'll also have staff involved as well. So we've been working with our user group back from 2018 all the way through this program that the manager's office has assembled. And so there's been a lot of history on it and a lot of projects. So let Daniel get settled on.
Yeah. So it's not presenting properly, so you don't have any animations, right?
No.
Cool. I'll just
Not that fancy.
we'll just have this screen up instead of the full-on presentation.
Okay. All right. So again, just the project, there's a sister project, or I call it a sister project. It is project number 2. Number 3. I will talk very slightly about that because it does tie in. But this is, again, the T-Splosh 2023 project. And this is the initial project statement of every project that comes through this program. The mayor and commission to approve a project statement. Typically, it's very broad. It may expand or contract some of the information that was submitted as a project by a project group, depending on what the needs are, what staff feels like it may need. But we try to make that as kind of very flexible as much as possible. A lot of words, and this is on the Splosh website, and it's basically, similar to what Lauren said. It's for not just bike ped. It can be used for trails, landscapes, intersection improvements, just a whole collaborative thing through that corridor. I placed a couple slides in here that kind of goes back to some of the information, even before the Splosh 2018 program. The Urban Land Institute from Atlanta came in and did a very large work session presentation and public engagement opportunities for the Lexington Road corridor and Atlanta Highway. I just threw this up here as far as what is pertinent to today, but you can see the report for that goal, or the goals for that report. It's more than just infrastructure. It's how do we improve a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, that second to the last bullet point really, to me, is kind of how it ties into everything. How do we make the Lexington Road flow for everybody? Okay. Of course, y'all are familiar with that one. Of course, Lexington Road over there on the map, got some blues, got some of the sidewalk lines. Of course, blue being the tier 1 projects, got sidewalk projects identified, and you can just see the vast amount of work that just from not an update, but from what the original program that y'all put together, how to get things more walkable and how to get things more bikeable. And, over time, it takes money. And again, some of these projects will help just kind of start nipping off some of it. So earlier was 2015, that was 2018. And then in August of 2019, Mayor Commission appropriated funds for the Connect Corridor Athens plan. That was really concentrated on Lexington Road and Atlanta Highway, kind of like the Urban Land Institute. It drilled down to a little bit more of how do we do this. And so there's a lot of research that's been going on over the years. Sometimes we research things to death, but there's a lot of history there. And so just wanted to let you know that some of that is the user group has utilized a lot of that information to help get to where we are today. I pulled these out of y'all's report, of course, because I think, I'll say everybody has different opinions of how things link up and move, but I think it's a key important that, a lot of this, matches up. The projects that we're going to show you, the user group feels really matches up with some of y'all's requests or some of y'all's initiatives. We're going to connect things. They're going to provide a lot of equity. It should increase the users. We can use it as educational tools. And now we have some funding to implement something. I start with this project. I'm going to probably come over to the slide and apologize if I put shadows on the wall. But This is the DOT, Lexington Highway Loop 10 Interchange Project Cover Sheet. That's what that is. And the reason I put it up there is going back to the comment of, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to utilize the tools that are already there. And this project is underway. You ride by there, you know it's underway. And one of the reasons I wanted to show it to you is part of it's why some of the decisions we made that were made by the user group due to connectivity, but also this informs some of the decisions that were made that doesn't, not by our doings, but by the state's doing, not in a bad way. It's just, this project's been on the books for 30 years. Some of this work will not connect both sides of the highway. And so what we're trying to figure out, part of some of our recommendations, is how to best connect some things. And what I really want to point out to you is, bike and ped improvements. DOT has provided sidewalks on both sides. But as you pass under the bypass, the only bicycle facility, the only bike facility will be from the park and ride lot at the red light, in front of the park and ride lot, and I'm gonna get out of the way. I can't reach over this chair. From the park and ride lot, bypass, park and ride lot, over to Barnett Shoals Road, that's the bypass, over to Barnett Shoals Road, and then down. So that small section
And just that side?
on the south side is the only place that is a designated bicycle path. It's 10 foot wide. You can move across, but it's really from the park and ride lot to there.
So it's multi-use path.
Multi-use path, shared use path. And then there's a 5 foot sidewalk on the other side. And so I say, kind of, if you understand that, that's what the state's doing. And hopefully, so when we kind of make some connections at a later date, it makes a little more sense. And so I'll point out to, okay, if you're going east and west, if you're close to that proximity, you can use that facility, cross the road at the red light at Racetrack, jump up on Firefly and go. Or if you're on the other side, again, we're going down to Johnson Drive. And so from here down, there's a sidewalk. So, and when I say there's no bicycle, there's no bike lanes in the road either. So it's not even, ooh, I'm a great biker, I'm gonna take my initiative. There is no 4 or 5 foot separation anymore. It's, you're right in the road. All right, man. And so we say all that, and then I back up a little bit to the 2018 project that we talked about earlier. There's a project on our books that we're moving forward with, is a sidewalk extension. So we're picking up where it says begin project. We're picking up with a sidewalk project under the funding of the 2018 program. And we're coming down to basically almost to Barnett Shoals Road. And what we're doing is we're building a 5 foot sidewalk on the south side. Where there's places that have sidewalk, for example, the new racetrack, they were required to put in sidewalk. We're not going to tear up something that was previously built that's in good shape. If it's there and it's in bad shape, we'll take it out and replace it.
Yeah, just for clarity, Derek, you mean I'm down to Cherokee Gaines School?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Cherokee Gaines School. Yeah. So we're gonna provide that sidewalk connectivity. So on the south side, you will have sidewalk connectivity from this intersection. It actually goes down further because there's a lot of sidewalk down this section, all the way back. So you can go from here all the way to town now. And so that was that program. All right, now we're coming into, the blow up of y'all's program and, project number 63 there. The DOT, that we're just east of your project 64. Again, there's no connectivity to Firefly or that bike lane between the Gaines School Road or Barnett Shoals Road intersection up there and Johnson Drive. So there's where Johnson Drive is moving forward. It's really hard to say there's any bicycle facilities. It would just be sidewalks. Okay, next slide. It's just the aerial of the area of the project area, if you would. I just wanted to point out. So if in other, you got, of course, you got the airport, you got Home Depot, you got the new Whataburger coming in. Walgreens is shut down. I'm not sure what may go into that place or in that facility. And as you move past, of course, this dirt area here, that's the new apartment complex that's there, that's got a red light there. Atlas Way is that roadway intersection. So there's a couple things as far as our corridors. There provides a stop for traffic when somebody needs to make a left-hand turn. It provides a safe crossing on both sides. So that's a kind of key component. And remember, everything that's done on Lexington Road is DOT. So we aren't the gatekeeper there. All right. So this brings us to our overview slide of some of the projects that we pulled from those past reports, some of the past work that was done. We did extensive public engagement in the 2018 program. And so we pulled a lot of that information back to the forefront and combed through it and came to these projects that the user group felt was important, from a master planning standpoint. You got the yellow dotted line is a proposed shared use path. You go southeast Clarke Park up to the Firefly Trail. You got I call it the dark pink or the hot pink line down at the bottom. That's the funded sidewalk project from 2018. So that will get done. Depending on where we are, we may want to increase the pedestrian crossing activities, provide safe crossing opportunities. These could be red lights if a traffic ticket is warranted, or it could be a pedestrian hybrid beacon. Basically, it's a stop light for bike ped to get across and stop traffic. And so those are a couple of places that we've looked at. Again, Atlas Way, the traffic signal is already there, and that's the little orange area right there. Plenty of bus stops. We're working with transit on both projects, that anytime that we pass a transit bus stop with a sidewalk, we're making sure it's connected, because a lot of times right now there's just a sidewalk. There's a bus stop that has no sidewalk to it, or there's a gap between the sidewalk and, say, a ditch, and then there's no way to make that connectivity, or there's not existing connectivity, and we're gonna make the connection. So if you are dependent, whether you dependent on the transit system or you prefer the transit system, we want to be able to get you to those stops without getting your feet in the mud. You have a question?
Yeah, so that shared use path, that's I can see it along Lexington, and then it veers up and it looks like it meets the Firefly Trail.
It does, and I will get there just a second. But and like I said, and one of the bigger things, I say bigger mindset, the philosophy, if you would, from the user group, was there's a lot of places there are, gaps in things. Well, there's a big gap from here all the way down. We've got the southern side sidewalk taken care of through the 2018 program. And so what they wanted to focus and make sure their desire and their recommendations is to grab things from, I'm going to say, town and build outward. Their philosophy was not, hey, we need to do something out here and then have this large gap in between. It's make those connections. And so you're absolutely correct. This project, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, it's blown up a little bit. And this is really where the meat of the recommendation is. You've got, again, the hot pink line is funded under a different project. And so they want to pick up the north side with a sidewalk to connect from the DOT project over here to Athens Way. Now, this is an existing red light. One of the things they want to do is there's 40 plus some odd homes here and a few businesses that is very challenging to make a left-hand turn out of there, out of these roadway systems. So what they want to do is use a little bit of money out of the 23 program to purchase the right of way to punch through to county property. Punching through to the county property does a couple of things. It allows us an opportunity. We've talked to traffic engineering. We can make some connections to these roads and pull people to that red light to get them out safely. It's a punch through. Again, we can take the Firefly, or we can take the shared use path along the edge of the airport property and shoot straight over to the Firefly Trail. So you can make that connection to go to town fairly uninterrupted. That's about, it's not quite 3/4 of a mile, down through there. Connects some other activities and neighborhoods up there to the Atlanta Highway. And again, and I keep harping on this because this was really decision-making points was, from here or from the end of the DOT project through there are no facilities. I mean, you can walk, but there are no bike facilities. So they were concerned about taking something and dumping you out into the middle of kind of nowhere, no man's land, if you would. And so then that leaves the sidewalk connectivity piece from here down to there. So that would make a connection of sidewalk on both sides up to Atlas Way, give the bicycle community, if you would, an opportunity to cut across the country to get up to Firefly to make that in a safe manner. We did look at pulling the shared use path down to here. And then, two questions. What do we do when you get to the end of it? And then two, what impact do we make on these property owners? And if you've ever ridden down through there, we've walked it, we've looked at it several times. We feel like we're going to impact those properties, even if we have to build a sidewalk. By the time you put the curb in, by the time you put the storm drain in that GDOT requires, by the time you got a 2-foot buffer behind the curb and then a 5-foot sidewalk. And then all that generally has to be flat. And then you start into some of those properties. And if you've ever ridden by there and you notice the terrain, some of the driveways, some of them, they don't have any yard at all. So you start impacting, what's left of those 15 or so lots on the frontage. What kind of impact are you doing there? So we felt like we could, I'm going to use the term squeeze. We felt like we could fit a 5-foot sidewalk in there safely and do it with, there will be impacts, but we'll say minimal impacts to some of those property owners. We just felt when we walked it and looked at it as well, that if we tried to bump that to the shared use path, that we were going to end up impacting some of these property owners to the point that we may end up having to take homes.
Forgive me, I'm trying to orient myself. Athens Way, I keep hearing.
Atlas, ATLAS, I'm sorry.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah,
This seems like a great solution to me. The only thing that it leaves out is if a bicyclist had a business in that area between that and the interchange and where the Firefly Trail comes out.
I don't disagree with that. We'll get into funding in a little bit. If you go back to, we don't have to go back, but the arching plan, there's opportunities hopefully in the future to connect here to Barnett Shoals, cutting through some of those properties. Atlas Way, there again, any development, if this ever redevelopment in a proper, but if that ever redevelops into something larger, you're in the airport overlay zones, so a lot of times that gives you a little bit of nuance in the design. Like for example, just side conversation, the movie theater, the reason it sits back this far is the airport overlay zone with the transition comes right across the parking lot. And so you can park cars in there, but you can't have that large assembly space. And that's what the movie theater is. So if you ever, that's a side note of why, if you say, why don't they pull it up and park behind it? Well, they pushed the big building past the invisible line and made you park out in the transition zone.
I don't want to keep on derailing with questions, but you mentioned Barnett Shoals and just this last week, I had the opportunity to go on that new extension of the Oconee Greenway. It's great. It's
First
really
Creek extension.
and it's
We open on April 16th.
what?
I said it'll be open on April 16th.
Oh, it's not, well, there were no barriers.
I know.
I'm
teasing.
Okay.
Sorry.
This isn't being recorded, is it?
Live streaming.
They are. I think some of us have accidentally found ourselves on some fresh concrete recently. So
Well, anyway, is there a possibility of connecting that with this at some point? Because it's a beautiful trail and a really nice extension, but then it kind of leaves you on this difficult place on Barnett Shoals.
And maybe Daniel can help us in the future or help y'all in the future by connecting some of the dots that are already there. Like I said, the small section of shared use path will come down on Barnett Shoals to the end of, is my understanding, to the end of where they're doing their work. So that gets us a little closer to Bailey Street. And if you know anything about Bailey Street, it's a small kind of, I would say fairly safe to ride, but you can connect to this, you can connect to the Greenway off of Bailey Street.
Okay.
So some of those connect the dots makes it a little less as far, it's less far than you think it might actually be.
There is also a future plan, I believe, Todd might speak to it better, but that kind of connects maybe through Atlas Way and through the woods back here to where that crosswalk is within the Greenway plan. So there's kind of some wooded areas through there, and there's really nice properties that are, you know, highly valuable to conservation efforts. But I know well, at least one of the landowners has applied for green space to be kind of acquired with green space in the past. But all that to say that there is kind of a future plan to do a multi-use connection down to that location, in addition to whatever on-street improvements we could make to the existing bike lanes on Barnett Shoals.
That still doesn't usually get you to this Lexington.
Let's let Derek finish.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're gonna have a lot of time for questions and comments. I just want to make sure that we get, and Derek gets what he needs from us today.
So again, going back to kind of the mindset and philosophy of pick up where we have existing infrastructure and move away from town instead of trying to do a project here and a project there and a project there. That was, you know, that was the overarching policy of build something that is easily connected. Don't go do something that has to have a future project in the future to make it connect. So that was one of the larger kind of overarching comments or components of the user group. And again, you know, we again, as I mentioned, anywhere there's a bus stop, we're going to make those connectivity points in there. So transit, so you're picking up transit, you're picking up pedestrians, you're picking up bicyclists. This is a vehicular improvement as well as some opportunities to punch through and connect to some county property there for the airport, whether it's, you know, emergency access or, you know, there's county property back behind the storage buildings that can make it come out to that red light to give it a better, safer opportunity. Because DOT is hard to, when you say hard, is you have to prove the point that you need a red light. You know, we call it traffic signal warrants in the business on the engineering side of it. But if you don't have the amount of people using that intersection, the number of people turning left, the impacts, it all boils down to these warrants. And if you can't check the box of those things, DOT doesn't allow a signal to go in. All right. This is a little hard to read, apologize. This is our priority list of what we want to do and estimated cost. The first one, I'll read it to you. The first one is the sidewalk connectivity from Atlas Way back up to the end of the DOT project on the north side. And we're ready. Our concept level budget for that is about $3.5 million with design, land, construction, permitting. The next one, we have a pedestrian crossing, hybrid beacon. It's about $500,000 that we've got in there. And that's trying to break up a little bit of that length of free flow traffic to give an opportunity for somebody to safely cross the road. The next project is number 3 that's the punch through, and it's just really getting, securing the right of way at Atlas Way, because I'll call it the old Marion and Bucks property. Some of y'all may remember that one. They have rights to that property as well. So what we don't want is we want to secure the right of way all the way through. So somebody just doesn't build something there and it end up being, that red light end up being, I'll say a 3-pony, you know, trick. You got the apartments on one side, you got the storage building and whatever else may be. That's, to me, that's just valuable real estate to capture for the point for everybody's use. Fourth is the shared use path. It's about $3 million. We've got budgeted for that. From Atlas Way, that's the kind of cross-country shared use path up to the Firefly Trail. Then we also have some, another pedestrian crossing. This is kind of like an either or. So, if you do one, you probably don't need the other one. But down there, the next one, one's kind of on the town side of Atlas Way, and the other one is over towards, the Diversion Center. If those that are familiar with the Diversion Center near the jail, that's our work release program facility. And so you have a lot of times you have residents of that facility, especially when it's darker, time changes. You got folks crossing, trying to get to the other side of the road to catch a bus in dark, in the morning, or when time changes in the evening coming back. So it's one of those things that we want to look at from a conceptual standpoint. Daniel? Those top six, the reason they're colored green is it adds up to a little over $8 million. Next slide. And the rest of this program is shared use path from different places, a sidewalk, other pedestrian crossings, those kind of things. And those are estimated projects, $6 million for this one, $2 million for that one. So all the projects total, what you saw on the two graphic sheets was a little over $22 million. And we have $8 million in our overall program. In the top six, the ones that we want to focus on first, they total a little bit more than that. We probably can't build all those, but I was being a little bit optimistic just in case. So from a budgetary standpoint, those top six is what the user groups recommended to move forward to preliminary plans. And by the nature of the projects, we can probably divide them up into like one being the shared use path, one will be the access point, right of way control, and the other being the sidewalk. They don't all have to be done at the same time. You can work on those separately. I do want to go back one slide to the green ones. This one I want to bring your attention. Talk about making, we don't want to jump around, but there is a T-Splosh 2023 project that is project number 3. I mentioned it earlier. It's kind of like the sister project to this one. Mayor and Commission approved that project, and it is a sidewalk between Cooper Road and Walmart. That's the front of the apartments, the funeral home, and East Athens Church. There, if you go out there, you can see the pig path. There's no facilities in front of that. So there's a separate standalone project. So what really that means is we have to do it. We have to do it. You can't just say don't do that. So there's a standalone project number 3. And in part of conversations like with Daniel, with staff, some of the programming that y'all have done, what we want to do is we think that really needs to be a shared use path instead of a sidewalk. Start building some more of those opportunities when we can. Well, the project 2 budget can't fund a shared use path. And so what the user group wants to do, they saw the vision that y'all are trying to put forth, or the other people are trying to put forth, and the need probably for that to be a shared use path. And so one of their projects is to kind of support project 3 with about $250,000 bonus to get to try to bolster that project 3's budget, so we can hopefully get that as a shared use path. So I think that's important. So again, everything's trying to connect. Not trying to do standalone projects out there by themselves that rely on future projects at a later date. All right, Daniel, yeah, and this is where we're at today. One of the things we want to do is we're kind of wrapping up our project concept and everything. What we want to do is we want to work with the other appropriate ACC staff, do some public engagement and comment period on the projects that are shown during the May timeframe. We'll do a work session presentation in August. It seems like a little bit of gap, but Mayor and Commission, I believe we have been told that they don't want to do a work session in June or July. If you kind of got to go a week or two in front of 4th of July and a week or two after 4th of July, they kind of take that month. It's split in 2 months, but take about a month off of time there in the case unless it's an emergency of some sort. And so that pushes us down to about August. And then we'll have August and September Mayor and Commission approval for the priorities, and then we will move forward with the tops, the top projects of moving those as well. And if you want to follow the same kind of time frame, I mentioned the sister project, we want to follow that same timeline with that one as well. So it just kind of it makes sense that they go together. And that way, Mayor and Commission can either direct us not to put the extra funding there, and we know we need to build a sidewalk, or we want that one kind of to track along. And that's about all I had. I mean, that's kind of what the user group we worked on, we've talked about, we've noodled on it, we've thought about it. That's just, that's where the group is, you know, several iterations of meetings and time and walking and, you know, safety road audit walk and just visiting the site and just, again, building that coalition of, we want to build on what's existing. We want to make it connect immediately. We don't want to wait on future. And then, you know, we want it to be, you know, we don't want to take somebody somewhere that there's nowhere for them to go. And with that, I'm open to any questions or comments that y'all may have.
You know, when you put up the green table and just have that one up there kind of zoomed in.
Everyone online see this clearly?
I can see it good.
Great. Floor is open for commissioners.
I think it's great.
Thank you.
It's really like nice, a lot of thoughts gone into it. Really impressed. Yeah, that's it.
I bike by that movie theater quite a bit, and it's one of the more uncomfortable places on that side of town.
What was the timeline for completion of all those projects, or at least the top 5 or 6 projects?
Daniel, can you scroll a bit? Yeah.
In totality, Mayor and Commission concept and in the August, September timeframe, we probably have a year's worth of work for design, get the proper survey, all that kind of good stuff, and to actually design it. Then becomes the issue of land, or still have to bring that back to Mayor and Commission to get them approved. There's what we call preliminary plan. So you're probably 12, 15 months from August to come back to Mayor and Commission. All right, then after Mayor and Commission approve the preliminary plans, the largest amount of time then becomes right-of-way acquisition or easements. And so kind of buying that punch through section, you know, depending on what that takes, you know, that sets the train in motion to connect the trail. Those are private property acquisitions. So there's only a couple private ones between where Atlas Way connects and the Firefly Trail. You got the large quarry, you know, we own the quarry now, we own the airport. There's a lot of county property in between there that we don't have to go buy. That will probably move more quickly than the sidewalk section, just because the number of parcels of the sidewalk. I mentioned that, like, you know, 15 homes that are there. You got those, then you got several businesses across there. That land takes longer than most people anticipate. You know, by the time we get the surveys done, Mayor and Commission approved, create the easement plats or right-of-way plats, do the title reports, appraisals, all that good stuff, and then giving those property owners an appreciable amount of time to, you know, review it and accept it or negotiate or whatnot. Different story if they don't want to volunteer to participate and they say go away. That just sets another timeline in motion that I don't even want to talk about. But you know, the short answer to your question, well, that wouldn't be rambling. I mean, you're 36 months out. These types of projects, they just, any infrastructure project, I should say, just takes a long time, especially when lands it.
Sure, I work at the university. I know how long projects take. So that has to wait, the negotiations, the right of way stuff needs to wait until after that's all been back to mayor and commission, and but it can't happen kind of simultaneously, or is it?
It's very,
Process.
it's very rare. And the reason I say that is it depends on depends on the funding source is dependent on kind of the route you take. Our mayor and commission, and rightly so, their money, their prerogative. They kind of like to know the big picture. So we have to do all that first. And then we want to develop the plans preliminary enough to know what the impact is going to be on private property owners. So they want to be able to go to their constituents and say, this is, your land's needed for this or that. So we want to talk to them about that first before those negotiations go out. Because if we don't, and, you know, I'll say, you know, heavy handed, kind of like some, you know, like state projects or something that are just larger in magnitude and carry a little more weight as a government, they kind of decide that this is the best interest of the project. And this is what we're doing. They kind of let the property owner know. It's this mayor and commission is very, and I'm not saying they're wrong. It's just, they want to make sure that they're upfront, they're educated, they know what's going on. And so that's the process that we take. And even if we have state funding in this, doesn't mean it just goes away. It just means we try to layer the mayor and commission's desires into whatever funding sources that we may have. So it may, if somebody said, oh, let's go get a grant to do this, well, you just tacked another 2 years on it just because of the processes we have to implement there. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
So thinking about this in terms of phases, with the top 6 projects listed here as priority, what we're looking at as far as the blue dot with the shared use path, we're looking at connecting essentially Atlas Way, Kelly Road, into the Firefly Trail with this initial phase.
Mhm.
You're just a little bit short on estimated funds on that for that first phase.
No, I think if you look at any one of these projects independently, we have the money.
Okay, yeah.
And what I was saying is if you add all those up, it's just right now is a little bit larger than the AD.
That's what I mean. So you're a little bit short from being able to do all those
Yeah.
things.
But you indicated that a couple of them that were like the 250 range, one might supplant the other, so you might be able to
Yeah.
give it back and forth. Yeah.
And even like, for example, 201 here is one of those $500,000 hybrid opportunities. You know, that was born a little bit before that was an actual reality. The signal is what I'm pointing to.
Right.
So GDOT may come back and say, we're not going to support that right now until you prove that there's additional traffic, ped traffic that we need to put one up. So that being $500,000, it might come back into the pot. Several of other ones, we've got a 101A and a 101B there. Basically, it's the same in 2 different locations. So if you put one in, you're really not going to put it in at the other place. It's just kind of a matter of, we wanted a little flexibility in talking to DOT. If we didn't want to go in and say, this is where we want it, and they're like, wait a minute, we wanted to kind of give them a window to look at.
And to be clear, those are pedestrian hybrid beacon locations. So sometimes called Hawks. That is essentially, a lot of people think that we're trying to say we should put in RFBs, what people are used to seeing around town. I think the closest thing that we have in Athens to a pedestrian hybrid beacon is the intersection of College and Broad, where College Avenue was closed down and is now College Plaza. And the only time that signal is actuated for cars to stop is when pedestrians call for a walk signal. So a pedestrian hybrid beacon acts the same way. It is a traffic signal that goes across the street, and it's when it's triggered to walk across, it looks at the signalization up and downstream of that intersection, and then it gets ready and it puts on a red light. Pedestrians can cross in the crosswalk, and then it reactivates green and cars can continue on the day. So it's kind of a more safe version.
Little more than just the flashing yellow lights.
Right. And there would be,
Especially when I say a red light, it should stop cars. Okay.
and there's there's, the hand and the walk person, and sometimes even bike if it's connecting to bike stuff.
but letting them know that they can cross at that time. So,
Thank you for going over that. That's good.
yeah.
But yeah, and remember, these are conceptual budget numbers, as we want to get, I'll say it this way, we want mayor and commission to approve a little bit more than we think we have. So if we do find some savings, or if somebody wants to donate some money, or if the state comes in and says, hey, we're going to do this, you don't have to, that we already have a kind of head start of the things that we want to do. Always, as money gets tight and those decisions have to be made, again, we'll have to go back to mayor and commission for preliminary plans prior to going to land acquisition. And so a lot of times we have a lot of those budgets built in. We may come back and find out some utility issues that we don't know, that we might, instead of doing project 1 through 6, we might only get 1 through 4. Or, we may get to land acquisition and what we budgeted for that, somebody may, so like some of the businesses over on the Firefly, they've donated land for the Firefly. So those are expenses that, we didn't have to write a check for. They're like, hey, we see this, you're not impacting our business. We see this as a community benefit. We want to be a good community member. So, we're going to, just move them a sign or, whatever it was. It was minor in nature than just purchasing the actual property.
But at the same time, I guess in previous meetings, we've discussed the fact that costs are going up for all of these kind of things, concrete and labor and other stuff. And does that you must be, does that keep you up at night?
Every night. Don't sleep. No, it does. And there is, regardless, from our business standpoint, if I put in what I would call true predictors of what, is trending currently, you might as well take those projects off the board and just, put the first one up there, because you can't predict it. It's really that volatile. Right now, fuel, we don't know what's happening with fuel prices. We know, there's an election coming, that fuel prices, we have no clue what's going on. I think after the elections, I've seen 2 different models, one, depending on whether it's a red or blue president, one takes off and one drops. So it's just, it's hard to predict. And then the other thing right now is, and when I say fuel prices, not just gas, it's motor oil. It's all the petrochemical stuff that goes on. And people don't realize what's in plastics. Plastics are driven by petrochemicals. So it affects everything. The other part of that is just the current labor right now. Skilled trade laborers, y'all probably understand that, and y'all probably see it or watch the news enough. Skilled labor is just, it's, when I say non-existent, it's that pool of next generation people are not there. I just got a great friend that owns a plumbing company, and he says like the average licensed plumber in the United States, I believe he told me, was like 54 years old. And so it's just, you don't have those people coming back or backfilling. I think we've done a better job now of introducing that to the younger generation, but a lot of that technology or trade skills are just not there. And when you need somebody, you just need them, and they're not there. So they're commanding high prices. I had the opportunity I was in a Rotary meeting the other week out where I live, and one of the people talking that day was from a car dealership. I won't name who it is, but they were in a car dealership, and they were talking about just from their growth opportunities, they need like 40 new techs, mechanics over the next 12, 18 months. He said, like nationally, that number is like at 400,000. And, and it's, you still need, and I'm going to explain it the way he explained it. You still need people that understand, like, there's oil in a motor and you can get your hands. But nowadays with electric cars and the electronic components in that, you need computer wizard kids over here too that will never get their hands dirty, because some of these new motors don't have oil at all. They're just
Software developers.
Yeah, that's what they want. I say, and so there's just a need out there that's just, it's just tremendous. I know a lot of the heavy equipment operator companies, like paving companies, like CW Matthews, or Snell, people that you see doing work around the community. They've started their own in-house training components. They are taking trailers that have simulators to high schools and getting those kids that, you know, didn't go to shop used to go to shop. They're trying to get those kind of kids that they just want to go work. They just want to make money. I mean, and those guys are going to come out making $40, $50 an hour.
Yeah.
After they get trained.
Career change.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think about it.
So that's me, you know, doing my politicking, but the answer to your question is, yeah, cost keeps us up because we don't, you know, when we go to Mayor Commission, we get the best estimate we can get.
Mhm.
But, you know, I start working on something and then a year from now, you know, I'm $2 million over budget. And the question is what happens, like escalation that we can't explain, you know, escalation that we can't predict. Because if I took every project that I had and said, okay, I'm just going to throw 40% a year at it, I mean, we'd never have enough money for anything. And that's kind of where it's been lately. And it doesn't matter what market space that you're in. Something's up, something's down. And when we were building Firefly Trail, the bridge in Dudley Park, that by the time we bid it, to the time we actually got steel on the ground, the index of steel had gone up 62%. I mean, I just, yeah, you can't, I don't know how to articulate that to somebody and say that's what's going to happen, and without them just looking at you going, you're an idiot.
That is a really nice bridge.
No, thank you.
On a related note, when the Board of rebuilding its IT headquarters out on Daniels Bridge Road 20 years ago, we had the misfortune of doing it at the same time that China was building for the Olympics. There was no steel available.
Yeah.
No steel available. So it was crazy.
Okay, so then, so what you're bringing forward to the Mayor and Commission, is the whole list, the whole prioritized order, like one that was at 12, and then with, you know, the idea to do the top 6. That's what you're gonna present.
Yeah, we'll present the program like we did tonight, you know, identify all the projects that were talked about, and we'll identify the top 6 projects that we want to move forward as what we'll call sub-projects to move forward to the next phase. Doesn't mean those will go away, it just means we're not going to mature them to the next level.
Okay, and yeah, and that order may stay, or it, you know, may go into a slightly different order depending on what the features. That's.
Is that the fundamental difference between programmed and proposed?
Well, proposed, until Mayor and Commission adopt it or tell us that's approved, we try to generally say that that's proposed. Now, the programmed sidewalk is, they've already told us that's what they want us to do and they've allocated the money for it. So it's in the works.
That's how I would read it.
Yeah.
As far as our goals as a commission and with Lexington Road being a tier 1 project, and then like based on what we had, I think, hoped for, or those of us who were part of this group when we submitted a proposed T-SPLOST project for facilities along Lexington. I think that this really starts to get us that connectivity that we were hoping for. The one thing I worry about is that gap for people who are on bikes, electric bikes, scooters between Johnson Drive and I guess Hughes Street. We're basically being like, well, I don't know for those folks. I definitely wouldn't put the brakes on this or say like that this is not a good project because of that, though. I'm just wondering how we can set ourselves up in the future. Like I see that note about going ahead and purchasing some right of way between Hughes and Atlas Way. So, because there actually is a business that I go to in that gap. It's Lexington Vintage, and Randy knows what I'm talking about. So I actually do go there.
Well, you know, one partial solution, it's not a real solution, but if there was adequate bike racks at the end of the bike infrastructure, and then, you know, it's not that far to walk along the real sidewalk at that point. Not to say that that's not perfect.
Right, yeah, I mean, we could push our bikes, or people could push their scooters or something like that. Or we can kick the can down the road. So I think maybe that's my only like concern, but it's not like it's something that can't be addressed later. We just, you know, don't want to create any new gaps if we can help it, at least as far as a commission. But also understanding the challenges of working with what GDOT has had planned for 30 years. And that the fact that they even are putting in a multi-use path is like, yes. And the vision that we had to anticipate that on-ramp coming on and have that Firefly Bridge in place, I'm like, yes, that was such smart thinking. I think that it will, like, as far as beginning to get people on East Side into town, this is a great start to that. I think people will feel more comfortable being able to use a multi-use path that's separate from the road and gets them on the Firefly Trail and gets them around what will be at least 6 lanes under that interchange now.
And part of that project too with GDOT's doing all that, and if you remember, and which is hard to do, if you remember, they're not touching the loop bridges.
Right.
They're threading the needle with all the work that they're doing underneath it. So to try to squeeze something else in, it was tough.
Right. Yeah, so any other comments from y'all? Randy, what do you think? Because you've been serving on the.
No, given all the challenges of location, properties and money being the biggest one, I think it's pretty good. Yeah, it would be nice to get those businesses down, but
The Rooster.
I'll walk.
Yeah.
Rooster.
That
Yes.
Rooster.
I think it's pretty good.
And Cartoy, oh, yeah. Mhm. Julie, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all looks, I feel like that was a wonderful and very thorough kind of overview of everything, so I appreciate it. And I feel like it all looks good. I mean, I don't go to that area too much, so I'm glad that you kind of threw that in about getting to Lexington Vintage. So do you think that's a good point?
They have not paid me to say that.
Bam.
Like, this girl on a bike, what? Yeah, and I think it's great, like that Atlas development is huge. It's really massive. And so being able to plug them into a safe way to get into downtown, and then at least with this neighborhood, Hollis Street and Allen Drive, you know, those folks will be able to come into town. I think probably right around Lexington Heights. I think, you know, that they'll be able to get over eventually the first phase of this. Those are 2 very isolated areas that will now be plugged into our network, and that's not nothing.
Yeah.
Additional,
Provides little access to Greenway to the back side of campus, you know, behind Waffle House there.
yes, right. So we're,
Right.
yeah, we're not just talking that, we're talking like plugging into the Greenway network. We're getting closer and closer.
Yeah, this gets you into the heart of campus.
So Derek, if it helps your cause with the Mayor and Commission, I think you can say that this, we're not taking an official vote today, but this aligns with the vision for the network. If it will help your cause to say, like, we disagree, you can say we totally disagree with this. Everything will work with the Mayor and Commission.
So I mean, we'll be transparent with them. We'll let them know, and y'all, if you haven't, and Lauren definitely knows, and Daniel definitely knows, we provide an agenda report. It's what Mayor and Commission sees, got history items on it. This will be noted as a history item.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely let them know that, I'll let y'all craft a sentence or 2 if you'd like. That, what I'm hearing is generally, everybody's in favor of the plan moving forward. Caveat is, we would love to, maintain an opportunity to, punch through a shared use path, a little more direct in the future, just to maintain that flexibility.
Or
How do you,
kind of facilities in the
Yeah.
future for
Yeah.
micromobility.
yeah, some, you know, however y'all want to phrase it, I don't put words in your mouth, but, you know, definitely that'll be us presenting that as a user group or presenting that in the mayor commission. You know, we'd love to put that in there.
Right. I love being able to plug into the Firefly Trail and have it be leveraged as a transportation corridor that I think a lot of us have envisioned it would be.
Absolutely. And I would share this too. Then you go to the blow up, the orange square, the next slide.
Yeah, I was trying to find my mouse.
Where about that? I just want to point out to those that don't know, you know, with Winterville Road coming up through here, there's, you know, the large creek comes down through here. So there's a lot of environmental concerns here.
Yeah.
And that's why, and it comes down and comes all the way around it. And if you ride by the construction site, you'll notice that GDOT's putting up those, MSW, they're big retaining walls. So they're not putting in a lot of dirt and filling in, so we could come, it's not gonna be very easy to come back later and say, we wanna just kick a sidewalk out
Right.
or widen one up. That was one of the reasons why when we did have a meeting, and I remember sitting in the meeting with DOT, when Drew Rassler was the dude, our local transportation director. You know, and we went to several of those meetings and expressed our desire for some of those. And unfortunately, it was one of those that, because we're trying to thread the needle under the bypass, not trying to add another $1 billion to the project. And a lot of that environmental concern was just, that was, and going back to funding, the majority of that intersection improvement funding, if I remember correctly, comes from a special pot of money from the federal government for trucks. For truck movement. And so if you know what they're doing, I can help on a different picture on a later day if you want to, but how actual traffic will move through that intersection when it's completed, it's really going to open up an opportunity to get, for vehicles to move and without having a lot of trucks blocking those intersections a lot. So it's a,
Couldn't get much worse than it is now.
but, and I'll do this, and I know Steven's online and Ronnie, but, and I think they're doing a great job on, I'll say, these early meetings with DOT are critical to get in and go to those meetings, even if you know, it's like, hey, it's a concept, we'll change it later. GDOT's idea of getting that concept locked down, that's where you have to interject your desires at that point in time.
Right.
Because they use that opportunity to what they call lock down the environmental. So if you have to go outside this imaginary line after they decided where the study point is, it's almost impossible, or it's starting a project over. That's kind of their work product. And so it's critical when y'all hear, or Daniel hears, or, you know, somebody hears that there's a project meeting for a concept idea. That's all hands on deck as far as GDOT's concerned. Y'all need to get there, say it, go to those public meetings, you know, be forceful, so to speak, you know, because after that, when you're like, oh, I want to see what they're going to do first,
Right.
and then draw my desires on it, is too late.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if this is the appropriate, if you're the appropriate person to ask this question for, but unrelated to this, but another connectivity, we've talked a lot about Riverbend Road, multi-use path, and I just had a conversation on the phone today with Jimmy Williamson at UGA, and he said that there's been a lot of progress recently between the county and UGA and on agreement for that. Is that?
Daniel, do you have an update for us on that today? Riverbend Road.
Because he seemed to say that this was gonna, I think it's gonna go in front of the mayor and commission the same dates that you're
The
talking.
agenda we approved.
Ronnie or Steven, Ronnie, speak on.
We can come back to that.
Yeah, I don't wanna.
Oh,
Yes,
Ronnie,
yes,
just
come
know
back
that
to me.
that question is coming.
Okay.
I know they're in those conversations. I don't know some of the details, so maybe Ronnie could fill you in on it.
Okay, anything else for Derek?
Thank you very much.
So you just want a sentence from us dictated to Daniel?
Yeah, that'd be great.
For a bullet?
Mhm.
Okay,
Great.
well, thank you, Derek. Actually, I think, I'm very excited to see this.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thanks, Terry.
Nick knows yellow.
I'll hang around for if there's any questions, but I'll be a visitor and let y'all finish your meeting.
Okay, yeah. It's not as long as the Mayor Commission meeting, but it is another 15 minutes.
That's all right.
Okay. All right. Moving on, next item on the agenda, fun stuff, much cheaper things than Lexington Road sub-projects, or is our budget. It was just small, very small in comparison, which is fine because we're not building things as commissioners per se. We leave that up to the professionals.
Determining how many stickers to buy.
Yeah. To buy. Some paint in a can. Yeah, Daniel, you said you had priced out some items.
Yeah,
And,
I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing. There, they changed the interface again. All right, so back to the, okay. Priced out items, so we've made a few purchases. This is regarding the budget. Okay, so we've made a couple purchases. We bought another 20 bike racks.
right, which we approved last time.
Yeah, that came out to $24.99. And then we purchased more vests. Those, I believe, are being delivered directly to Teresa.
Okay,
So I've not gotten an update from her on whether they've been, I think it's a few weeks though, lead time on that. We did receive some quotes for what billboard messaging would cost. Do you want me to cover that? You want to talk about your conversation?
Sure, actually, she just sent me a information sheet that I forwarded to it on my phone. Basically, they suggested packages. Increasing number of locations and time.
Yeah, I'm working on pulling that up. Go ahead and share. So. Yeah. So,
Yep, I think all the info is on there.
so
You can ask for more if needed.
it would soak up most of the rest of the budget to do 4-week. It depends on the location, obviously, but if billboards was something that we wanted to pursue, I don't know how effective it would be.
this is helpful. I don't know if we have anything to go now or anytime soon, but I think that we probably with the next fiscal year, maybe we would like to start with some kind of a campaign. And, that can go to education and communications to figure out, but would love to have something out there that fills that mission, because we just haven't tried that yet. We've mainly been focusing on looking like project review, but education and outreach is been part of our mission. So I know, of course, like this is just for 2024, this can shift to 2025, but this is kind of, I think, a good thing to have. And I remember using Louise Lamar, I don't know, Louise for T-Splost. Louise somebody, and it was great seeing all those billboards up. Scott designed the billboards. Thank you, Scott. I don't know if he's still on. Yeah. So it's, I don't know. I think it's great. I'd like to get on board about like messaging and what our whole media campaign would look like, and thoroughly vet that through this group and other groups, and make sure that our messaging is on target. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for looking that up. But yeah, I don't think that we were going to have something to go for this fiscal year.
What do we think about putting on the billboard? I mean,
That's what I mean, yeah.
okay, I mean, obviously we
We
don't.
need like a campaign, like, okay, we have this vision and this is our messaging and we're gonna get it through billboard and flagpole and WGA and, or whatever, all the media forms. But yeah, I don't think we had anything specific to go. It's just kind of like percolating.
We can also hold on to this for reference if this comes up in the conversations around the pitch. Jamming out. Around the Safe Streets for All plan, if that is, like, I'll have to double check the scope. I know that there's some money towards, obviously, for public engagement, but we can hold on to that as reference if needed, so. If that's something that is in there, if not, then probably won't be doing that, but.
Thanks. Any other updates as far as the budget goes?
Was there anything I missed that we discussed about spending down the rest of that budget?
We had talked about having some money that could go towards if we were working with the who is it? If we
Tool?
could- Yeah, working with Tool on the plan revisions, like food and stuff, or, you know, future like public engagement, having that kind of money being used for that.
I don't think we'll need to pull from this particular budget for that. We want to leave y'all enough to go towards, you know, some stuff to give away at, you know, tabling events. And oh, there was like bike lights that we ordered.
Okay, you also ordered
So,
bike lights, great.
Yeah, so we'll have those at the table as well as having them at Bike Athens to kind of go along with you know, as a location to give away lights. And Scott, did those have arrived? Is that correct?
Correct. They're all here.
I
Awesome.
will, I'll follow up with you on payment on that. Aside from that, Scott, last year, I believe, did we, I think we did something about bike locks with all of the bikes. How successful was that? Was that helpful?
It's always helpful to have bike locks to get people.
Are you in need of more of those?
You and I can talk about that a little bit later.
Cool. All right, I'll get more info. That. But
What about helmets?
Take it
I
home.
think Scott's good on helmets.
We're good for helmets. I got money for helmets.
I've got one I need to give back to you, Scott, sorry. Actually, it's in my car.
Give it to someone in need.
Should.
The vests and lights, do they have our branding on, our logo? our new
The
logo?
lights do not, the vests do, which is why there's a little bit more lead time on those. And I believe we ordered 60 or 75 more, like we kind of took inventory of it all. Just to kind of pad out the rest of the inventory so we don't, because I know that we burned through most of that inventory at the Family Fun Day last year. And so it's always good to have a little bit extra that we can hand out.
Yeah, we have the kids fest this year.
Yeah, we have
Great.
kids fest to give out, and so that should be nice, successful. I've seen them around town, so.
Yes. And I know Teresa's not here. Education communications, Julie, do y'all have, you have tabling ideas?
Some stuff in the works at the moment. I think
Okay.
we're gonna try to prioritize an open streets event happening during Porch Fest. So
Okay.
that might be what the main focus is, but we have a meeting on Thursday if folks are interested in participating, and we're gonna, I think, solidify some stuff.
Okay, great, yeah. So whenever like, you wanna put out a volunteer sheet for like, so we can staff those tabling events, like whenever those events are, the sooner the better.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, anything else as far as budget? Daniel?
I think so. I'll get a total, once we get all the invoices paid off and everything, and I'll send out kind of a total, what's left in that budget, soon.
Yeah, and I might get with you and get those total numbers of what we've ordered and when we give it out, because I'd like to put that in our annual report, so we can tell mayor and commission like what we're giving out, like way we're helping people be visible and more safe, even as we're trying to get our infrastructure up to speed?
No, that would be a really good idea we might have to create an inventory spreadsheet or something for all the various things. That would actually also help with streamlining what needs to be refilled in terms of, I know that the slat bracelets look really quick. So those seemed popular. I don't think we've ordered new ones. Just to kind of keep track of what's been given out. So maybe I can work with you or Julie on that. We'll have to do an inventory. All the stuff is stored out at the old firehouse. So I should at one point start calling it our bike pet office. But yeah.
You. Moving on to general staff updates, I will turn it over to Todd, park planning. Todd, are you ready?
I am.
And there's been kind of an issue with the meetings. Todd missed he didn't get the invite for the February meeting, which is why we didn't get an update from back then.
Sorry, Todd.
And then he didn't get one today either. So I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with that. But yeah, if anybody has been having issues getting those invites, please let me know, because I basically send it to the Athens Emotion Commission listserv. Todd should be on that. He gets the other things. But yeah, so I apologize for not double checking on that, Todd.
I'll just put a tickler in my personal email if I don't see a notice to give you a.
Just come, Todd. Just show up.
I have a placeholder event, and I'll invite you to that one.
Okay, that'll work. Okay, just quick update. The Cars Creek Greenway, the section that some of y'all have already took a little ride on. That one is pretty well done. We're having our final walkthrough scheduled. We have it scheduled to look at the punch list items to make sure they were complete. Leisure Services needs to install just some wayfinding signage that probably will go in next week. And then ribbon cutting is planned for Tuesday, April 16th at 11 a.m. And I believe that invitation has went out. So, and then Firefly Phase 3 expansion. Splost office is still working on acquiring construction easements. I believe there's approximately 9 parcel easements remaining that are along the corridor. So I think so. Anyway, the Firefly Trail East Broad Street trailhead improvements. I don't know if you've been there, but they pretty much have the walls up and a lot of the landscape is in. The last piece that they got to do is pour the sidewalk connection that will be our bike access point. And that construction should wrap up in 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the weather. So it's getting really close to being done. And then just the Oconee Street Bridge Greenway Underpass, still pretty much the same. The GDOT Bridge project, I believe GDOT is letting it for bid in April. And then that roadway construction should start in the fall. And then I believe Derek's plan is to let the Greenway Trail portion, the little red line, let it go out to bid in the summer of this year. So it'll piggyback right behind the construction of that bridge. So, and that's pretty much it.
Is and we can talk about this more offline, but from this location, oh, you can't see my mouse. From the end of the trail where it comes into the existing paths in the park and connects to the trail. I know that there used to be some cobblestones along that. Has that been replaced to be a little more?
It has. Those have been replaced.
Okay. And is there a plan in the future for y'all to kind of look for grant funding or some sort of way of widening that trail access so that it could kind of stay as the main spine of the trail?
We would like to, yes.
Okay.
That would
Just
be a
let me
good-
know if y'all need help with that or, yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I'm not sure I quite follow what you're.
So,
It's
Um,
right there. I don't know if you can see my mouse.
Right, and this is the Oconee, this is the North Oconee stretch up to Oconee Street. Yeah.
Yes.
That's Dudley Park there, right?
that's Dudley Park.
Oh, wait,
It's, yeah, not the Oconee.
Yeah,
But, so that's the Oconee Bridge. Mama's Boy is, just kind of south of here.
yeah.
So Easley's Mill Trailhead is, the parking lot on that side. And, this is rotated, 90 degrees to the right. So north is actually to the right. So basically, if you go to the trails at Dudley Park, that lower green line, the one that is closer to the river, is a 6-foot wide walking path. It's concrete. And the red line there will be, what's the width? 10 or 12?
It's 10.
10-foot multi-use path. And
Yeah.
so you'll kind of, it narrows down as it plugs in, but there just wasn't enough budget to kind of do that entire stretch. So we're plugging into the existing infrastructure, but in the future.
Because ultimately, like, Daniel's talking, this intersection right here, we would like to kind of make it a little smoother. So like Daniel says, that's the main spine running along the river. So it's just a little bit of a change in that as well. That's about where our boat launch that we just recently built is in that area as well.
Signage looks great. I appreciate the warning signs next to the river now.
Okay.
About-
Yeah,
yeah.
we have a couple more that we're gonna put up soon. So one is gonna be at the dam area and everything. And I believe we have one that goes on the pipe up there at above the College Avenue MLK Trailhead parking lot. So it goes on the sewer pipe that crosses the river. So to kind of warn you when the water's high, not to be trying to go under that pipe.
Nice. I'm just waiting for the water to warm up a little more. Can't wait to use the launches. Won't be getting muddy anymore. Yeah, and so Derek, just 9 parcels to go.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and construction maybe begin maybe in the summer, something like that.
More likely in the fall, but
Okay.
That takes us all the way to Winterville at that point?
yes, sir. Great.
Y'all just hold on loosely. It's gonna be done.
Is there any planned date for when they're gonna repair the section of the Greenway by the Waffle House off Lexington?
No. And the reason I said I've actually reached out to DOT and I'll say unfortunately, some of the work that's being done is some of the asphalt work that they need to do, that the contractors told DOT, which related to us, that they'll fix it as quickly as they can, but there was no timetable.
Within 20 years.
Well,
But
the project will be done in like June 2025.
Yeah, I believe the Southern expression is real soon now.
Bless your heart.
Well, thank you, Todd.
No problem.
Right, on to some general staff updates. Riverbend Road, yeah, Daniel, you had mentioned like that there might be an update, so just, Ronnie, you had some notes on that?
Yes, so we have been in communication with UGA, and right now we're looking at an impacted property owners meeting on April 17th. Usually those type of meetings are for staff to meet and get in contact with impacted property owners. The majority of the impacted property owners is UGA. There is a handful, maybe less than 10 private properties that are impacted on the section that is between or close to Millage Avenue. As you know, there is a smaller section of multi-use path and a bike lane that would go on that short segment. We're excited for that, and the meeting will be in the evening, so that's exciting. The next step would be for mayor and commission to approve the preliminary engineering and right-of-way plans. Authorize us staff to move into right-of-way acquisition, finalize the plans, and go to bid award. Also, we do plan to come back to you guys and give you the heads up on where the plans are, and if there is any comments we need to solicit and hear from you, Athens in Motion, that would be great. I don't believe there is recommendation from Athens in Motion at this point for preliminary engineering, but it doesn't hurt to get one. I don't know if it's needed, but that's on River Bend.
Could I ask a question on that, Robbie? I had last heard that it wasn't going to go all the way to Millage, but you're saying, but it sounds like there's a possibility.
There's two sections.
Oh, so it's from Millage in and College Station in.
Lakeshore Drive, I believe, and then like
going down.
Yeah, and then you'll transition from the Maltese path to the current bike lane.
Yeah, that's a good solution. I thought that it was going to stop short of Millage.
Oh yeah, we will be plugging into that intersection, and I believe as part of that, that I know one of the requests I've gotten is that there's no crosswalk there at that location. So this will actually create the need, the warrant for that, because there is an ADA connection that needs to be connected to now.
That's going to be far usable with both ends.
Yeah, and Ronnie, can we just make sure, that's one thing I don't remember looking at, but can we just make sure that in those engineering plans, they are showing a crosswalk at that signal, Millage and Riverbend?
You will have a chance to review, and would love to see those comments from you. I don't have a list of, I'm not providing comments, so we'll coordinate, Daniel.
Sounds great. I don't want to forget, you remind me.
Yep, I'm sure it will come up. I just don't recall. It's been a while since we've looked at those plans, as we were contemplating stormwater management concerns. So the focus was lately on stormwater with our staff, and then some coordination with UGA. I don't recall details of the plans, and we will share those plans with you hopefully in April. Solicit that official feedback. Daniel, I'm hoping to share the plans ahead of the meeting for Athens in Motion, so we can capture all your comments and add them as part of our preliminary engineering phase.
I think we have enough people in the room to help remind me about that one comment.
Okay, so then we'll look at plans for Riverbend Road in April, at the April meeting.
We shall send you the plans ahead of the meeting, so you can see the plans ahead of the meeting.
Okay, great. I'll make sure to leave some time in that meeting, because I think most of the folks who are part of the commission now were not with us when we went through and looked at the initial proposed facilities along Riverbend Road. So I'm happy to carve out a substantial amount of time so you guys can get the information and get your questions answered, if that sounds good.
And I know we haven't had to review a concept or a plan lately.
Yeah.
I know previously we discussed having basically a presentation similar to what we had today. And then if there was a vote needed, we could do a special called session or plan to vote at the next meeting. So if that's something, do we want to kind of take a straw poll and see if that's still the desire or with all the new commissioners, or if they prefer to do a vote on the same day, or we can decide in that moment too.
When, are y'all looking to get something in front of in front of the mayor commission at a certain work session? Do we have a deadline we're trying to meet?
Agenda,
Yes.
agenda is proposed at this point in the May, June cycle.
Okay, so
The sooner, yeah, because June, July is out. So any delay in a vote, if a vote is needed even, from the AIM Commission, potentially push that out to
yeah,
August.
yeah, because I think their work session will be it kind of falls right around when our like meeting is, so it probably would be the April meeting. Okay, so what Danielle is asking and what we have considered doing in the past, because these, like having this discussion, these presentations can take up so much time, we can consider like doing a separate special called session between meetings. And we don't have to do that. We can just try and see how it goes depending on like how the rest of our agenda looks. And Ronnie says that we'll be able to look at plans beforehand. So
I would like to suggest something.
yes,
The plans, when they go through concept approval, that's when we take the bulk and the majority of the comments to come up with a preferred alternative. Those plans, more likely, the comments you may have will not change the design for say, but there will be comments such as, well, we would like you to consider to add a crosswalk at this intersection. Looked like you did not add one. And that would be a comment, and it could be recorded from Athens in Motion as a comment.
Okay.
We don't anticipate a lot of comments because it's kind of fixed. The alignment is fixed, the width is fixed. Multiple staff, including Daniel, have seen those plans and commented on them. So
Right.
there shouldn't be a lot of details that we would need to dive into, as we don't have a lot of room to change many things.
right. Okay, that sounds good.
A couple things I'll also mention. Number one, previously, those discussions about when we would have a separate special called session was when all of our meetings were virtual, so it's a little easier to convene. So we haven't done this since then. Also, this is the first time that we, as a commission, have reviewed preliminary engineering plans. We haven't been at this point before on any of the Athens in Motion projects. So this will be the first one
Okay,
from, I think it was 2021, maybe, that the concept was approved, and
Yes.
first of our 4 big projects.
yeah, so maybe with these plans, Daniel, maybe you can work with Ronnie on this. Can you like help focus what we're looking at and what would be helpful from us as a commission, so we don't get in the weeds on engineering questions or anything like that that you guys don't need from us? Could you like include a one pager, some bullets?
Yeah, I'll talk with Ronnie about that. I think my bigger concern is going to be, these are construction documents, which are a few hundred pages usually. There's only really a few pages that are more legible to non-engineers, and even with that, with a plan view of what it's looking like, it's a lot of lines.
How about this, like, you guys talk and then let's you and I talk
Yeah,
and figure out what is the best way to get this forth to everyone without, sending 100 pages of engineering documents here elsewhere.
yeah, and we can thank you for that. Down, like, depending on how much time we have, like if I get it a week before to send out to y'all, then I won't be able to really distill it down, but I'm hoping if I get it a little
Talk
more,
before then, because
I could potentially do like an illustrative version.
you and I can still talk about
Yeah.
a strategy for this to make it adjustable for everyone, because I know what we're talking about.
Perfect.
Can I just ask one low-tech question?
Yeah.
Free question even. Is there any enforcement or what are the laws of residents leaving garbage and recycling cans in the bike lanes? Because there's a stretch along there that every single time I ride by,
Yeah.
there are these big obstacles and then it's a little dangerous to go out into traffic at that.
We need an ordinance, and we had started one, and we were working with staff attorneys on that.
So there's no law about that right now.
There's no law about blocking the bike lane unless,
So I don't have clarification on the law. The word that we got was that it is unenforceable because there's nothing that is specifically saying that you can't block a bike lane or stop in a bike lane with deliveries, stuff like that. That being said, you could interpret that it is a lane of travel, and there are laws about blocking a lane of travel. But I think, you know, what we ultimately were working on was an ordinance, which we'll touch base. I think that's coming up again soon, or I had to put it on hold with all the other things, but essentially an ordinance that would look at no stopping or blocking bike lane. Now, I want to make sure that that includes things like, I believe ultimately that would be a code enforcement issue. If you called into code enforcement, if you see any like I've seen like sidewalks and bike lanes that get blocked, and I call those into code enforcement. And they will come out and they give a warning the first time and a citation the second. Because generally that's something that we plan for in our, like the latest discussion with Barber coming up is, well, how do we get the trash when it's a separated bike facility that's 12 feet wide? So like, is the garbage truck going to drive down separated bike lanes to access them, or is there room for so we're working on that conversation with that planning. Anyways, all that to say, I don't know that the ordinance would be required, but I think that's a code enforcement.
I'm pretty sure that at least in residential areas, not bike lane sorts of places, residential areas, that putting it in the street is covered by the same code enforcement rules as leaving it out all week long.
Well, it's all the time there. I mean, they're always there. So it's a shame to take like, you know, $3 or $5 million project and then have these trash cans that make it unsafe in the middle if you have to. That's like, because it's right at the bypass point.
So solid waste would probably say, boy, it seems awful for us to buy all these great new trucks and then not be able to reach the bins.
Yeah. The students that live there bring their trash out to the trash can.
Yeah.
Don't bring their trash.
They just live there.
I know people that have called code enforcement.
well, you know, sometimes homeowners do that too and just get busy and forget and just a nice little knock on the door reminding them. Okay.
I feel that when Leaf and Limb comes on schedule, I'll be on schedule for everything else.
All right, moving on. I want to make sure that we get to this next item. Daniel, you had mentioned possibly rebooting our grants committee because you were looking for some grant support. You want to chat about that briefly?
Yeah.
Lauren and Daniel, if I may, one
Yes.
update, and you may want to hear this. On April 17th, we've scheduled a ribbon cutting for Tallahassee Road. Tallahassee Road project includes the first multi-use path section. It's not as wide as we would like it, but it's the first multi-use path. So we are very proud of it, even though we would love for it to be a little bit wider and it protected. However, it is what it is. And Athens in Motion chair will receive an invite and should receive an invite here within the next few days for an official invitation. We do have invites going out to the consultants and engineer of record, to CSX, to the Georgia Tollway Authority, who we did receive a grant from in the amount of $750,000 that went towards construction. And we've also stakeholders, the manager's office and mayor and district commissioner. You're probably missing a few people, but yes, definitely key individuals from SPLOST office and our department. Would love to see Athens in Motion members out there.
Thank you. I remember when that was our first, project from our first T-Splost that I was on. What time, Ronnie?
I believe it's at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll circulate an email to confirm.
Nice. That is so exciting. I know coordinating with the railroad was fun.
The railroad was fun and we learned a little bit and a lot, I should say. And honestly, it's a successful project. We had a great contractor. CSX was great to work with.
Okay.
It's the nature of this project. Yes, working with
Sure.
any rail is difficult, and specifically with CSX, they were responsive, reasonable, timely, accommodating. I got nothing to say. Yes, it's costly, but if you can think about liability and contractors working next to rails and any incidents, and nobody wants that. So the project is complete. We are so happy to see that. GDOT is doing a safety project along the corridor, but that's going to happen later on in May. We have some rumble strips, and Daniel can tell you more about it. And all the credit goes to Daniel and his effort with GDOT Safety Office to get some rumble strips along Tallahassee Road. Not the entire stretch, but enough for us to brag about.
Nice.
And I can thank GDOT for that because they approached me and they said, "Hey, do you have rumble strip locations?" And so it was because we did that road safety audit and they attended. So, hopefully, there was some staff change over there, and so it is included. And we're looking at just identifying what needs to be done to get the rest of Tallahassee kind of included, so we can check that off as well in our road safety audit project.
And that's my update for the day today. I appreciate you having me with you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Ronnie.
you.
Thanks.
So I'm gonna do my update and I'll focus on the question that you gave me. Here's our current project list. I took out a lot of the ones that are on hold, so this is kind of the minimized version. But just to focus on the grant location, so we were awarded the Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhood Grant for, this is RCN 2023. It's $800,000 grant. This is the same project that we applied for RAISE 2024. So I will be contacting the representative at RAISE to, formally pull our application on that. But we're really excited about this.
That's the Hawthorne Oglethorpe.
Yes, so this is for Hawthorne Avenue, Alps Road, and Oglethorpe Avenue. And it's a planning grant that will look at re-envisioning those corridors to really provide community connectivity and, also look at how we can better manage the traffic and locations there. And for context of other RCN grants that were the capital grants that were given out, one of them was in Atlanta, and it's called the Stitch, and it's $157 million project for phase one. That's where they're building a park over the interstate to kind of cap it off and reconnect the downtown area and community. So I don't believe that there's a max award size on this. And so when we're really talking about, $800,000 to plan, that seems like a drop in the bucket with a lot of the amounts that we are used to dealing with. But the goal there is that something really comprehensive that, really re-envisioning that corridor and like those corridors, all three of them, and how we could come to really improve safety. So we have some existing projects within the Maycourts plan that'll get wrapped in. We have some existing, intersection work that we've done, kind of concept work in the Mitchell Bridge, Tallahassee Road intersection area. I will go ahead and say the intersection of Hawthorne and Oglethorpe that is currently we have the preliminary engineering plans. We're moving forward with that construction since it's mostly just a correcting of that intersection. So as we get into the planning moving forward, that'll be in existing conditions. And so hopefully there won't be much needed expansion in terms of that intersection itself in terms of the planning. But that was really exciting and great news. The Safe Streets for All 2024 demonstration grant, I'm not sure if we will be applying to that. There's 3 different dates and there's a couple partnership opportunities there, but we are just really stretched then. And this is where maybe having some assistance from a grants committee might be able to help, because generally speaking, the planning grant, for instance, that we wrote was like a 250-word narrative. It's a very brief thing. It's just doing the legwork to get the projects drafted up, get it explained within that amount of time, and then also kind of the grant administration on the back end once we do receive the award. That's something that we're getting above capacity on. I think Ronnie, he might have other words for it, but after hours. The ATIP is a new program, Active Transportation Initiative, Improvements Initiative, something, Active Transportation Projects. This is a new grant program. We are looking at potentially 2 from our department, and we're gonna potentially talk with Leisure Services to see if there's any that they're wanting to do. But we are looking at a construction grant for Atlanta Highway from Epps to Timothy, or even further out to Bogart. So this would pick up at the end of the Atlanta Highway and West Broad Road Safety Audit that was done in 2021. And with that project, we're currently coordinating with GDOT on some potential application of how we could provide local funds to help supplement safety improvements for that corridor. So we don't want to muddy the waters up too much with grant funding in those projects. So this would start at the Epps, basically the at-home parking lot of that intersection. I think it's Old Epps Bridge Road. From that across the bridge and into towards where Timothy and Mitchell Bridge Road projects are coming in there. There's also the Atlanta Highway intersection project in that area, which is, I believe, building a multi-use path on the north side from the mall to Mitchell Bridge Road. So a lot of projects in that area. This is like how we could potentially make more connections. And that would likely be on the north side, just because then you don't, because they interchange on the south side. But that's TBD. We want to make sure we have a good conceptual alignment before we move into applying for our construction grant. So that's going to be something we explore. And then a planning grant on Millage Avenue from Prince to Whitehall potentially. Now that is kind of very young idea, but it is one of the top 5 corridors that's listed in the Athens in Motion plan. So there are other opportunities. I think we can apply for up to 3. Other grants have said we could apply for up to 3. We need to find out with this one. It says you can apply for multiple grants, but this is really the type of grant program that's specifically made for Greenway Trail networks, bike ped networks. So this is very, and it's not super well funded. So there's $45 million total in this grant program. And we're looking for clarification. It's either the max award or the minimum award size is 15 million for a capital project. But that's why we're also throwing in a planning grant opportunity, because there's a lot that can be done to get ready for a future award if that is expanded.
That sounds great. And Stephen just put a link in the chat from the U.S. Department of Transportation announcement of the $45 million for this ATIP program, and I'll send that link out to you all.
Okay. We are also applying for Senate appropriations for FY25 on 2 projects, and then we're also sustainability is heading this one up, but PCAP, we are partnering with Atlanta Regional Commission to apply for the voucher the e-bike voucher rebate program that we discussed at the last meeting. So
Awesome.
A lot of grants going on. Is there interest, like who is interested in being a part of the grant committee, grants and data?
With enough notice.
Yeah.
I mean, if I have, a week, more than a week to sort of read things. And also, I mean, I don't know how to start the content, but I'd love to review.
Excellent. Is anyone else interested in the Grants and Data Committee? Do you want to be the chair of the Grants and Data Committee? It could just, it's basically, you know, those would be probably here in the basement, down in the Transportation Public Works. We would just put a notice on the, we'd have like an agenda to talk about what grants we're covering. And we could basically put our heads together. Honestly, like, I don't even know if it's a committee that's needed if there's only one member. Like, it could just be correspondence between us if you want to help assist with the grants.
Yeah, or an occasional
Yeah.
WebEx between us or something.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it. That's great. You know, if you just don't want to have this communication and fill us in and, you know.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So rather than a committee, then since if it was a committee, we'd need to do the open rec or the sunshine laws. Is that what it's called? It would have to be in person and minutes and agendas. Maybe I'll just reach out to you for assistance. I know there's some previous members who've shown interest in the past too, so we could loop them in. And some of the biggest hurdles for me is like with everything going on, getting around to sending out that request for help is sometimes it's easier to just not ask for help. But I think we're at the point where it could be very helpful to at least brainstorm and.
Well, I think it'll take a little bit of practice to kind of figure out how we can work together and complement each other. And
And you can put out calls to the rest of the commission. If you're like, hey, can someone else look at this? We've been reading it or we've written something up. Please do that. Daniel, we're at 5:58.
All right.
And I see you have this. Are you going to send out a version of this to us?
I can. Yeah. I meant to do it ahead of time. I'm perpetually behind on updating all of these projects. So
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, this is beautiful. We'll take it.
excellent. Are there any questions about any things that are on the list?
There's probably a lot of questions about everything on the list, to be honest with you. It's just,
Unless two.
knock them out in the next minute and a half.
yeah,
All right.
okay, no, it's 5:59, so we're not going to vote on anything else. So if anyone needs to leave Essex, I totally understand as we wrap things up here with committee org report backs. Anything from the corridor committees? Prince Avenue met, they have a meeting tomorrow. The committee is looking and talking about implementing permanent bike lanes. And at the last meeting, they voted that they would like to recommend that any permanent installation of bike lanes include road repaving on the locally owned side. And, you know, that could come from the pavement maintenance bucket. It's not currently slated. Prince Avenue is not currently slated to be repaved on the locally owned side of Prince.
Between downtown and Prince, downtown and Village.
Yes, that's correct. Maybe that ends up being cost shared with the bucket that the Prince Avenue user group is working out, but that's to be determined. But that way, the group was talking and they were thinking that it would be, if we put in permanent infrastructure, it would be nice if the road was already paved, shiny, looks good, because this is going to be a model corridor for us for future projects. So that was some of the discussion that came up. And then there will be clock beacons. What's the pedestrian?
Oh, man.
The
Pedestrian hybrid beacons, PHB.
PHB beacons installed at Social Security further up on Prince on the state-owned side, and then
RRFB at the next location.
and then RRFB near Georgia Avenue, basically right in Normaltown proper. So
Basically kind of lined up with, I think it's like near more on the end with Square One.
Yeah.
Where it crosses Georgia, and then Georgia Avenue is right across the way.
and both of those will be very close to some transit stops. So that, of course, this requires coordination with GDOT, but the group wants to go ahead and pay for it.
And those are things that were already in the concept report from GDOT. And those would have been paid for and installed by GDOT as part of that PI number. But the group felt it important to go ahead and get it on the ground sooner. So that's why they're, willing to use some local money to get those on the ground sooner.
Are there plans to incorporate things like nice landscaping along there? I mean, things that might, I'm just worried about so much negative press. So many people are so upset about Prince Avenue bike lanes but if we make it beautiful and like,
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, I see fresh asphalt and I think that looks good.
Yeah.
They've been talking about that. That's the short version of that.
There is another sub-project, which they've covered in detail in those meetings that focuses on green infrastructure. The location, I think there's a lot where one of the roads was kind of realigned to be more perpendicular. I think, was it Hill or Cobb? I can't quite remember, but one of the locations that has a lot of excess gore striping, like looking at converting that into green infrastructure. Landscaped area to kind of help with stormwater issues. That's one of the sub projects. So there is some of that. And I think some people's belief that concrete barriers are a little more attractive than the zippers that we currently have out there.
Yeah.
So in that way, yeah, it's beauty in the eye of the beholder.
Just sort of, trees along there, things like that. But anyway,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take the bike lane, but
There are trees along Prince Avenue. We're preserving the trees that are there. We're not having to
Yeah,
get out the right of way view or the line of sight. What is that called? Updates from our committees, education and communications.
Like I said, meeting on Thursday downstairs in the TPW conference room from 4 to 5:30, maybe. Well, I think solidify kind of tabling events, maybe figure out some of the Porch Fest logistics, but I'll update y'all afterwards for the meeting for folks who can't attend.
Thanks, and hopefully we can do some spring tabling, take a shift or two.
Yeah.
It's about that time of year. And then policy and projects met last week.
yes, last week, Thursday. Continuing to talk, look at the sidewalk gap projects. Possibly rolling that into some contractors already working on safe streets. And on the bike racks, looking at different ways that we can either have a form in place for businesses to request a bike rack, how we can place them out on county-owned property. Attendance this last Thursday was fantastic, so I thank everybody, Art and Ed and Therese, for showing up. So we got a lot done.
Great.
It helped significantly.
I, just on that note, Daniel, I actually have to do some work from home that makes it almost impossible for me to get away so many times during the week to come down to things. But if you stick the video links out there, I want to try and attend as many of our committee meetings as I can, just so that I don't waste as much time here trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So,
and we always have a WebEx link just in case we have virtual attendance. There are people who are not on the commission who sometimes attend those meetings, and so we like to
so just, if
that up.
If you got it going, I'm going to try and use it as much as I can. So.
I did notice one thing with an issue with file sharing. As I was using just making a copy of the agenda files that are already on, but many of the new commissioners and some of the commissioners who've been on a while aren't on the file share. And
Yeah, okay.
I'm not a big Google user, so I
Yeah, we should fix it. I think what I was trying to do is have our new commissioners be able to use their official ACC Gov email addresses, and maybe that's just not working.
Well, for that specifically, the individual has to actually go and set up a Google account with your ACC Gov.
Right.
So there's just some extra steps. But even then, I wasn't able to access his file. with my ACC Gov Google account. So I'm not sure, there was an issue with that.
In the future, I'm just gonna paste the agenda into the email.
Yeah, let's, let me see, will y'all send me your, the email address that is not your ACC Gov email address that you are okay with being associated with this Google account? And just know there's some open records things with that. So, maybe not have it be your most personal email address.
Well, and as long as you're not doing correspondence through your personal email address relating to government business, if it's just for accessing this thing, like the folder is subject to open records. I think as long as you're not doing correspondence, which we're not, we're using the ACC Gov.
Nor keeping a local copy or anything.
We're all trying to figure this out. The ACC Gov email address is a new thing. Thank you. Sorry about the trouble there. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Worked well for me, but for no one else.
And I can fix that pretty quickly, so I'm sorry.
Worked fine from my phone, just not from my desktop.
Yeah, that's really.
Lauren, I will say recently we have expanded, ACC Gov has SharePoint now, and so I could, Derek just let me know there's a way to set up 365 access to a SharePoint folder that we could have. It would require kind of migrating everything over, but
Might be under the Microsoft authentication umbrella.
Well, we probably should move in that direction, because that's.
Yeah.
Okay. Put that on an agenda in my head.
I mean, that's more of an administrative thing. I think I can try to get it set up. I'll get Derek's help with that maybe, if that's all right. Or if someone in my team knows how to do that.
Once that's available, start shoveling stuff over.
Yeah.
Shovel.
Then we can just get it set up for people to see, and then we can open up the access.
Great, thanks. Any updates from our other committees and commissions, starting with UGA?
Just briefly, we had a scooter safety day last Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
I was actually in training. I apologize, Julie. I'll make sure we share those so that we can have a tabling opportunity if you wanted. I'm not sure what the options were. I said I was in training. I wasn't attending, but the feedback I got was positive. I know they distributed 50 helmets.
Great.
Versus the police were there, and some of the Watch for Dogs program, they're distributing helmets. So.
Great, yeah, keep us posted if you do one in the fall. Interested in maybe being there, depending on our capacity, but I would like to be there.
They are talking about combining that with the bicycle safety day.
Yeah.
Doing it twice a year, doing it fall and spring. So yeah, I'll keep you updated.
That's awesome, yeah. Glad EJ is responding to that. It's not like when we get a driver's license, we have to, answer questions about biking or scootering or other forms, how to, so. Greenway.
Well, in the faithful fulfillment of my responsibilities in the Greenway Commission, I did explore the new Clarke Creek extension.
It was your duty.
I felt obliged. And as everyone should have heard by now, the grand opening will be on the 16th.
Yeah.
The Oconee Rivers Audubon will be hosting a bird walk on the 20th.
Thanks.
In the Greenway. So that'll be starting off at the E23 lot off of the North Oconee Access Road.
Will you be supplying the birds or do we have to bring our own?
If I give you a bird.
Can you make sure there's a painted bunting just right in front of my eyes?
But by that point, we'll be well into migration. So there will be a lot of birds, and the new Clarke Creek section has got me really excited.
It's really pretty. So
you don't have really the highway noise, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's just beautiful.
So Sparkwoods.
And we're happy to share the digital invite.
Okay.
Yeah, wait to Daniel, he can send it to the group and y'all can spread it as much as you want.
Thanks, yeah.
That'd be great.
I got it from Rose.
Okay.
So I can happy to you if you like.
Someone invite me. I'll be there.
I'll figure out some way to either to
It's on my
you or to
calendar.
everybody.
So, yeah, I'll be there. T-Splosh 2023.
We didn't have a quorum at the last meeting, so
Oh, interesting.
we didn't have a vote, but I will back up to the other things. The ad hoc committee, are we looking at scheduling something for that?
For the plan revision,
Or-
the ball is in Daniel's court.
So we have one meeting set up with the SPOS office, to ask a question. And then we need Banesh to put together a scope, and I've gotten a cost estimate from,
Hi, Julie. Oh, yeah.
and that'll need to be adjusted based on Banesh's kind of thing. And then we'll schedule a date for kind of the 2-day, one or 2 day workshop, where people can bring staff and we can have kind of a big breakout session. So hopefully we can get all those things sorted. It's on my to-do list.
Yeah, so it's going to be potentially this 1 or 2 day thing where they focus us instead of this drawn out thing. And we don't have to figure out that process anymore, or own that process.
Okay.
Thank you for asking about
Different
that.
change. Okay, great.
All right, anything else? All right, it is 6:12. Sorry that this ran over. Thank you all for being here. I will entertain a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thanks. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all. And yeah, bye Steven, bye Todd. Derek, thanks for hanging out with us.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.